All right, the right fits. We are back here today. We're talking about the economy just because what the fuck's going on in the economy? You know what I mean? It's the craziest thing ever. And it doesn't seem to there doesn't seem to be really any way out, right? So please like and subscribe. The right fits. We're really trying to build this channel right now, trying to give the people what they want, understand what's going on, and the economy has been predicted now to kind of decrease for years actually, and that's the way our capitalistic system has worked in the U.S. There's been fluctuations from about every 6 to 12 years where the economy fluctuates down and up, and that's just right. That's just kind of what our politicians say is how our economic system works, right? It's a system of ebbs and flows, right? But we've been ebbing, or we've been flowing up right now for quite a long time, right? The stock market, drops sometimes, but it seems to be we haven't had a 2008 event for a very long time, which is actually very alarming to many economists because as we're flowing, we have to ebb. That has to stop at some point, and it appears, it would have definitely happened during the pandemic. Well, and our Donald Trump knew that when he was in office. Same with Joe Biden. He knew that the economy was absolutely, it would have crashed, right? If they did not take the stimulus. And we know what the stimulus was, right? It was printing a bunch of money. That's what the stimulus was. And that money, some of it went to, the $1,400 or whatever the fuck we got, the pennies we got from our government, as they're bombing with millions of dollars, sending bombs to other countries worth millions of dollars every day. One missile cost $1 million. If you think about that, one Javelin missile, which is just a crazy fact. But we got our $1,600 out of this, right? As they do whatever, and we already know that stimulus went largely to fake businesses and shady corporations that knew how to game the system, people who knew how to game the system, and a lot of that stimulus money did not go to actually helping the average American, right? And so that just kind of added to the problem, the inflation problem that we're seeing going on right now. This is all just an effect of what happens when you dump a bunch of money into the system, right? And then it takes a while for that money to get it actually into the economy, and when that does, that's when the inflation hits, and that's why prices are up, which means the dollar's worth less. That's what it means, right? That's what it means. And so it's even Jamie Dimon, the head of J.P. Morgan, was talking about how he predicts the economy is going to shrink in 2024. There was a survey of CEOs, and almost all the CEO of large Fortune 100 or 500 companies, and they all said they're very scared for the economy in 2024, right? And I am too. That we can only ride a wave. This is how capitalism works, right? We can only ride this flow until it ebbs, and then we have 2008. And the question is, how much worse? Could it be as bad as 2008, or how much worse could it get? Because we've been going so long through this process of just trying to keep the economy afloat by printing more money, right? Printing more money, spending the money, right? What have we done? What is it when the government buys back, or when the central bank buys back government bonds? Quantitative easing, right? Which is just a trick of the system to essentially take money and put it in another place and say, hey, well, now it belongs to the central bank, so the funds are there, which it's similar to just printing more money, right? and we've been printing money for a long time, and it's very easy to argue that printing money necessarily isn't bad, right? Or if you're producing more things, right? If you're producing more services and goods, it makes sense that there would be more money to account for those goods and services, right? But that's not what's going on. We're not creating these things, especially like not during the pandemic, right? Especially in America, jobs are going abroad. They don't come. Generally, they're not coming back here, and if they are, they're going to the middle of fucking Mississippi where they're getting paid, $10 an hour anyway. Which is ironic, right? We used to ship jobs abroad because labor was so cheap, and now it's actually starting to come back because our labor laws and our 750 minimum wage has almost put us on the level of the countries that have very cheap labor, which is also another bad sign of the economy, right? When we're not producing things at home, right? We're not producing more. We're not actually growing the economy, right? More goods and services are not being produced, but money's being dumped into the system. That's the whole inflationary problem, and that's what's going on. For years now, I've been worried about a collapse, and I think it definitely, or let's call it a depression, or a large recession, if you will. I've been worried about it, and if you just look at, my college professor said, if you just look at the percentage of money that's owned by the top 1%, right? It's been increasing over and over time to, I think, where the top 1% owns over 50, I think it's way over 50% of the wealth in the country. I think it's like 70%. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's like 70% of the wealth. The top 1%. So 1% of the country owns. I don't think, maybe it's more closer to 50, but I got my laptop here, but yeah, there's shit on it. I'm not gonna open it. My laptop's slow as shit. But gosh, where was I going with that? So other countries we are in a shit ton of debt, right? And no party has any option to solve that. So more money is being stuffed into a smaller percentage of the population, while we're going into larger and larger debt. These are just facts, right? We're to almost $30 trillion in debt or something. And it's not like this is not the 90s where Bill Clinton can do some monetary changes and all of a sudden we're going to have, a negative deficit, right? A surplus. That's not going to happen here, right? $30 trillion doesn't disappear. And or doesn't appear, you know what I mean? And that has to be accounted for by the goods and services that are produced, and neither of the parties had any or try to act like there's any solution for this. And so what has happened is essentially our country, right, over the past 40, 50, 60 years, you can look at growth of industry, right? Profits of industry as it's increased, right? The stock market as it's increased, and then you can look at the mean or median wage of middle class workers, and you can see how it's stagnated completely. So what does that mean, right? When you have more and more profits, and then the middle class workers' wages are stagnating, right? What does that mean? You have a smaller and smaller group of people who own more and more wealth. And now that is why our economy, and that's why our debt can't be fixed, right? Because we know lobbying has owned our politicians. We know that, right? We can see that with Israel right now. They will not stand against. Bernie Sanders won't even say anything really against what's going on, and Israel. You know what I mean? They're owned by APAC, right? Just on that one issue. I could go on many other issues, many other lobbying things. You know, the NRA or whatever for the Republicans, blah blah blah. But that just shows you the power of lobbying is indicative. It's a proxy for how more and more wealth is being shoved into smaller and smaller of a population, and that more population has more and more influence, right? So now our right debt skyrocket, and people are really kind of freaking about our economy. And you got to remember, we have the world reserve currency, right? So that's why in 2008, when our economy collapses, what happens? You see worse recessions all across the world. See what happened in Germany in 2008 compared to us. And Germany's one of the biggest economies on earth, right? They're not. Right. It's not Rwanda's economy. Germany is a very functioning economy. And look what happened in 2008 because our dollar slipped. And what we've done as a country, as a society, what we have chosen to do is not to bring manufacturing, bring services and goods and production back home and make things here for our people, right, where we have security on our own things. Look at microchips as a perfect example. We're dependent on Taiwan for microchips, and who wants Taiwan? China believes Taiwan is theirs. They have another name for Taiwan, and they don't recognize it. We, as a country, do not recognize Taiwan. We're in this gray zone where we still get our microchips from them, and Xi Jinping hasn't actually taken Taiwan, but they will take Taiwan in the next 30 years. They will take Taiwan, undoubtedly. What's happened is our country has we've chosen to not focus on manufacturing and building goods and services at home to secure our economy and keep us growing. What we've done is we've relied on using our military power to force other countries to use our dollar and keep us as the world empire. We've not chosen to say, let's work with these other countries, right? We say, instead of saving our country and our economy, we'd rather go to war with freaking Russia and China, and just to be still the world empire. We need to be the world empire. But I tell you what, when everybody's got nukes, it doesn't really matter who's the biggest economy, who's the biggest, baddest country on earth. And as a country, we have to reckon with that, right? Do we want to just keep growing our military? This is a huge problem with our economy. Just grow the military. That's what we do. Both parties. We don't have a choice. The American people don't have a choice. We just spend shit ton of money. Every year we grow the fucking military industrial complex, right? The defense of our country, right? This isn't defense. We're in fucking 20 African countries at least. No, we're in definitely more than 20 countries, right? And we have military bases there. And this was just happening in, I forgot, Nigeria. You know, Nigeria, a lot of places don't like the fact that we've used our military to kind of control how our economy runs, right? To force our economy on other people. I tell this to my girlfriend every time we go to the store and get pineapples, 2 for $5, right? The only reason why is because we use our Marines to invade countries, and the countries that grow pineapples south of us, and now we get pineapples cheap, and it's been like that ever since the 60s or whenever banana republics were invented, because thanks to us, right? We invaded these countries to get their resources. We didn't decide to trade with them and actually offer them our goods and services in a way that would benefit both parties, right? We'd say, let's increase profits by sometimes killing the population, right? That's not out of the American playbook. That's been going on through the CIA for years and years and years, decades and decades. And it just shows the growth of our militarism that we've chose to spend all our money, our congressional budget every year, over half of it, well over half of it now goes to the military, when there's education and health and other things that have to be looked at. It's the military, right? We need our bases in Nigeria, right? We need them to protect us, to keep our freedoms, because Nigerians would be invading Florida right now if not, right? That's what our American government has sold us. Just like Iraq, Saddam Hussein would have invaded and tried to take California if we didn't get those weapons of mass destruction out of his hands, right? It's bullshit, and we know it's bullshit, and there was never, no Iraqis were ever coming to storm the beaches of Florida, right? That could never happen. And that's the lie our government has told us for forever, right? That bullshit that, oh my God, we got to fear for whoever country to increase the military, because that makes these certain companies a lot of money. Northrop Grumman, right? Raytheon, Lockheed Martin. We all know the names of these companies, right? For a good reason, because they own how our military runs. Ask Trump about it. We left all the weapons in Afghanistan. We left all our shit in Afghanistan. Trump goes, why don't we just fly it back like we flew it there to begin with? And they go, sir, it's just the most hilarious thing to listen. Just to listen to Trump be like, wait, what the fuck? We just leave all our weapons that are now in our enemy's hands? Didn't we think they were like, it just doesn't make sense. And so now people want to get away from our economy. You guys got to learn about BRICS, the BRICS countries. They're eventually going to replace the U.S. petrodollar. The world reserve currency will eventually probably be replaced by the BRICS currencies. And the reason why is because, let's say, the institution that has given America its prosperity through militarism instead of fairly trading with different countries, has led the BRICS countries, which is Brazil, China, India, right? Russia, BRICS, and South Africa. Okay. And more people are joining, right? Because they're not really happy with the US dollar being the world reserve currency. They're not really happy with us being able to control their money at any point in time. And why would they? Would we be? No. So we gotta, as Americans, I know it's hard, but we have to look at another point of view when doing these things. And the reason, and this is all because, of our gross spending while not actually producing real goods and services, how an economy works, right? Instead of taking security through building our economy, we've taken security through forcing, right, at a gun, our economy. And it's bullshit, and that's what's led to this. People don't think that. Just look at the housing market. The housing market cannot last like this. It's just impossible. What, are people never going to be able to buy homes? That's pretty much what we're looking at. And the baby boomers don't want to sell their house because prices keep rising. Just economy, right? But that's fake. It's actually fake. There is no real money in there. Just because Vanguard and BlackRock are buying out whole groups of houses and they're able to spend, 20% above the market, that doesn't mean that money's really there in the market. That house is still the same house, right? The goods and services are still the same. So, this fucking bubble is gonna pop, and it's been way too long coming, and unfortunately, the longer it goes, the bigger it pops. So, motherfuckers, please subscribe, like, tell all your friends, you know what I mean, thank you. Keep watching, brothers.